So Ableton just dropped the massive update for Ableton Live 12, and to be honest with you guys, I don't usually get excited about these things because most of the times they just introduce a couple new features that maybe you're gonna use twice a year. But this time, guys, was I wrong? The difference this time is these new features are actually helpful to make better music, are actually helpful to improve your productions, to make them stand out, while also improving your workflow and allowing you to be more creative. I'm gonna run you guys through these new features, but I'm not just gonna list them for you. You can go on the website for that. Instead, this channel is always about making you a better producer. So I'm actually gonna show you some creative use cases that you can add to your daily workflow to improve your productions starting today. Let's dive into this. So I want to start from this very exciting new device called Expressive Chords. This is what everyone is so excited about in this new update. And I get it, because chords can be pretty intimidating, especially if you're at the beginning of your journey as a producer and maybe you're not super familiar with like chord progressions, keys, and stuff like that. And so a device like this can be very, very helpful, not only for beginners, but actually also for advanced producers or people that actually know music already, because this can give you so many ideas very quickly. But what is this exactly? We can think of this as a chord generator. So now I have this little Juno patch loaded here. But if I activate this Expressive Chords, now just by pressing random keys around the keyboard, this is going to generate different chords. So each key is already associated to a chord. And these chords tend to sound pretty good together. Let me just show you. You can find interesting combinations. On the C, we have this. And then we have this, which is like a kind of an interesting chord already. And you can start like playing them. And even if you're not a very musical person, maybe you don't know exactly the theory behind all of these chords, but I'm pretty sure that just by using your ears, you will be able to find some cool combinations, some cool chord progressions. So let's see what I come up with. Oh, okay. Hold on. Oh, okay. What if we go here? Oh, okay. We can end on this one. So. I just recorded multiple takes on top of each other. And so this gives me actually the chance to show you one very little feature that they added with this update. But this is so helpful, finally. You can just click this little button right here, and this will open just a bunch of takes that you recorded. And before this, you had to like right click and go to like show take lanes with this like shortcut that I could never remember. Sometimes I would just like try to remember the shortcut when like something different would happen. So now that we found the chord progression that we like, let me show you just a couple of cool features inside this Expressive Chord. You have a few controls here, pretty intuitive. Moving this tilt around will make the chord sound different, like it's being played with different velocities, so like maybe the lower key is a little bit harder, maybe the higher key is a little bit harder. So you can definitely hear it if I play it. But if I put it like this, the top notes are definitely heavier in velocity. And moving this invert around gives you different inversions of the chords. So if I put it back to 0, now the chords that we're playing, like they are technically the same chords, but inverted. So with these specific chords, I think the only inversion that works is 3. But if I play different chords, for example, I don't know. Okay, listen. This is like an F sharp major 7, right? But if I bring it down, it's still the same chord, but in a different inversion. And then same. Okay, so this is what's happening basically. The notes composing the chords are just, inverted. And another very interesting control is this strum. So very easy to understand. If the chord is made of like 4 notes, for example, the 4 notes are not played exactly at the same time, but they're played one at a time. And you can control actually the way they're played. If I just increase the strum, and then articulate is just going to control the way these notes are played. You can just press this little arrow here, and then you have the articulation editor. You can see like the bottom note is still here, and then you have the second note here, the third note here, the fourth, the fifth, and so on. You can have different types of strumming. You have this, you have this, you have this. You know, and the cool thing is that you can also control this yourself. So you can really come up with some unique effects. So for example, I was listening to this, and by moving this around, this almost started to sound like an arpeggiator. And so I was like, okay, maybe I can go for that kind of effect. So I changed the sound inside the Juno, and I went for something like this. Okay. And then just by, you know, increasing this. Oh, okay. This is super cool. And as you can see, this is happening because of the strumming. Also, to make sure that these notes are quantized, since now this is sounding as an arpeggiator, and so I wanted the notes to be quantized, I pressed this little button right here. So make sure to play around with this, because now it was an arpeggiator, but maybe use it in a different way and you can come up with something completely different but super creative, you know? And one final thing that I want to show you about this Expressive Chords is that maybe now you're thinking, okay, but you know, we're limited to only these chords. Yes, I mean, they're quite a lot, but only these chords? Well, not exactly, because yes, not only by clicking here, you can also import chords from clips, but if you just open this little arrow here, Ableton is giving you tons of combinations, and especially the cool thing is that they're already grouped by genre. So I don't know, let's say that for example we want to go for something like 90s R&B. I can just load this one here, and now we have a piano. I don't know, let's see. Oh my god, this is already sounding 90s R&B. I pressed the first 4 random notes, guys. I swear I didn't try this before, so I don't know, let's try a different one. Oh my god. Maybe pop ballad? You know, like it's so simple, amazing. I love this thing. As always, I encourage you guys to become more and more familiar with chords so you can come up with your own. But this is, you know, even to people that already know music, this can be so inspiring. And so this is the way I see it. This is the way it will help me maybe when I'm stuck. Maybe I'm just missing one chord in a chord progression, and I can just, you know, try and come up with something. I don't know, like I think this can be very helpful to a lot of people. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing. So the next big thing that they've added, finally, I mean, I don't really know why Ableton did not have this feature up until now. It's like 2025, guys. I don't know why it took so long. But now, just by right-clicking any MIDI clip, any audio clip, we're gonna see bounce track in place or bounce to new track. So in place just means that the track is gonna be bounced and replaced. This ARP is going to become an audio track. So this is basically the same thing as freezing the track and then flattening the track, which was the only way to do this before this update. But in this case, let's say that I want to also keep the MIDI for whatever reason. Maybe I need it for a different track. I can do that by right-clicking and bouncing this to a new track. So when you do this, Ableton automatically mutes the original track or the original clip in this case, so that they don't play at the same time. But now the cool thing is that by having it in audio, you can control this in many different ways. I don't know, maybe you want to time stretch it. Now you can do it, you know? It doesn't make sense now, but if you wanted to do this, this would be now super fast to do. I could set this to transit mode and bring this down and listen to this. This becomes like a little texture in the back. It's not even an arpeggiator anymore, you know? And so, I don't know, maybe I can add like a little delay to this, you know, and obtain some cool effects. Maybe we can have a section of the song where we only have this and the vocals. These are all very creative ways to improve your productions, to keep them interesting, to make them stand out. This is what I like about this update, because to do the same thing before the bounce in place option, I either had to duplicate the track, freeze it, flatten it, and then do what I did, or open a new track, take as an input this ARP, record it, wait for it to be recorded, and only then be able to do what I just did. So most of the times when you're in the flow, you're creative, you don't have time to do all of these things, you know? So maybe I wouldn't have done this, which actually made my little loop a little more interesting already. So every new feature, every new improvement that can actually help my workflow and not stop my, creative process, that's something that I very much welcome. If you're enjoying the video, guys, please drop a like, because YouTube lately seems to hate me for whatever reason. So yeah, that would help me a lot. Okay, so the next one is a big one. They finally updated the auto filter. It now looks bigger with more controls that we're gonna see in just a second. And of course, you can use this on any instrument, but I wanna show you how powerful this thing can be on a bass, for example. So we are gonna use my new Ableton rack that I just dropped, the Bad Sub. I also designed 7 presets that are all different from each other, like just a very deep sub, combination of like a sine, a triangle, but you can also have 808s, wobbly. But for this example, I want to use the Jaws sub. This is one of my favorite patches. So let's try to find a cool bass line for these chords that we have. Okay, so the main thing that, of course, you can do, it's a filter, is playing with the envelope. And so by just bringing down the frequency a lot, okay, and then we start increasing the envelope. So look at what happens. So basically every note that's being played, the filter opens, by a certain amount before going back to 59, 60 hertz. And also, finally, if you haven't noticed, they also introduced this little spectrum of frequency that allows you to see what's happening, like in the, FabFilter, Pro Q. As you can see, we also have high pass, band pass, notch, like all of these different filters. Vowel, this is also really cool. You can obtain pretty cool effects by playing with the format. This is very creative. Comb. Oh, pretty cool. You can always play with the drive, and depending on the type of filter that you have here, these might be enabled. In this case, as you can see, it's disabled, but if I bring it back to low pass, we have different types of saturation. Each one has a different sound. As you can see now, we're clipping like crazy. They've also introduced this little soft clip option. Instead of clipping now. Also, another very cool filter type that they've just introduced is this DJ filter. I don't know about you, but I'm also a DJ. And so I love to see this in Ableton finally. Just by moving this to the right, this becomes a high pass, and moving this to the left, this becomes a low pass, exactly like in a DJ mixer, So let's go back to our example. This is the release of the envelope. So this is gonna become faster and faster the lower I go, to go back to the original value. So let's keep it something around here. I don't want any hold. So as soon as he gets to the peak, the release kicks in. But I want to show you a couple cool features that you can achieve by playing with the LFO. So in this case, we have a progression that's 4 bars, okay? So let's say that I want this LFO to do something every 2 bars. So it happens twice, it happens here, and then it's gonna happen again here in the second half. So I can just set this rate. Instead of rate, I'm gonna put it to synced and 2. If I increase the LFO amount, it's dark at the beginning, and then it becomes brighter towards the end of that 2-bar cycle. You can keep some variation in the bass, and I don't know, you can use this on synths, on anything. This can definitely make your productions a little bit more interesting, not keep it like static, but always keep something moving, something new happening in the song. Another very creative way to use this filter with this LFO moving is on hi-hats. So I'm just gonna take a hat from one of my packs, the remakes, which are also available on my website, with all of the sounds from all of the remakes that I've done so far. So I want, for example, a one shot, I want a closed hat, something tiny. And I want a hi-hat to do something like, perfect. So I love to keep my hi-hats moving. Okay, so if I keep it this way, it's kind of boring. I would like to have the filter kind of open in this initial section where we have that little fill, where we have that, and then to kind of like close, okay? When you want stuff moving around, the answer is always modulation. And so LFO, okay? So this LFO, look, as I increase the amount, okay, it starts to move our filter. But what I want to happen is that the filter is open here and then kind of closes down and then opens again when we get to this section. Okay, so we are talking about 2 bars again. So I need something to happen every 2 bars. And look at this. But now it's kind of the opposite of what we want, right? Because it's open here and then it closes when we have that little fill. And so to invert that, we can move the phase around. We can bring it to 180. Close, and it opens. All right. And by moving this morph, you will notice that the filter stays open or closed for longer. It stays closed for longer and then opens and then stays closed. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted. These are the little things that keep your productions interesting, you know? Maybe now you want the left and the right channel to move separately to have some more like stereo width and movement. You can just increase this and listen. Yeah. Love it. Let me just bring in the full loop. Let me see how it sounds. Yeah. Okay. I like this. Okay, the next feature that I'm gonna show you is probably the one that I'm the most excited about. Even though it's not a technical improvement, it's not a new plugin, it's not a new effect. I'm talking about improvements that they've made to the browser. But stay with me, this is so important, so don't skip this. This is gonna make you so much more efficient, so much more creative, especially if you start using the browser the way that I use it. And I haven't seen anyone using it this way yet, so take a look at this. So we all know that you can just type whatever in the search bar, like drums. This is gonna search in your drive and show you all the files that contain the word drums in this case. Since Ableton 12, if I'm not wrong, they introduced these filters that, to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of these filters. I've never used them, actually, ever. But this time, they've introduced one very cool new thing. If you click here, this is gonna give you the chance of opening this tag editor. And the tags to me are the biggest improvements they've made to the browser in years. That's why I'm so excited about this, and let me explain you why. First of all, as you can see, you can organize stuff like I did, like instrument, drums, but these are limited. You know, you cannot have as many as you'd like. I, for example, have a folder for stuff that I just consider interesting and stuff that I might want to go back to in the future, you know, maybe stuff that I've listened to and it gave me some ideas. So if I just start playing some of these things that I have here, I mean, for some reason, when I added them to this folder, I thought these were interesting. But now some of them, I don't even know why. I don't even know why I thought they were interesting. And so when I saw these tags, this like immediately gave me a great idea. What if I could tag each one of these samples and actually write why these are interesting to me? Tag them by, I don't know, genre, or maybe tag them by the artist that they're making me think of. Let me just give you an example. So I hear this and I'm like, this kind of gives me like a Bruno Mars feeling, you know? Like 70s drums, Anderson .Paak, Silk Sonic maybe. So what I can do now is just add a new tag called Bruno Mars or like Silk Sonic and tag this loop with that. So the next time when I go back to it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's why I thought it was interesting. So if I scroll down, you're gonna see that I already have, because I just created it last week, a new folder called Artist Inspo. And I have a bunch of artists that I already tagged, but I don't have Bruno Mars, I don't have Silk Sonic. So I can add Silk Sonic, Bruno Mars. I can just click on my loop. And as you can see here, you can read the tags that Ableton has automatically assigned to the loop. Ableton recognized that this is a loop and specifically that this is a drum loop, but Ableton doesn't know that this is a loop that reminds me of Silk Sonic. So I can just, you know, type Silk and voila. I've never seen anyone do this before. And the reason why I'm so excited about this is because you guys have no idea how many loops I hear every day, and instantly I have an idea. I have like a little reference in my mind. I have an artist that they made me think of. Maybe I hear, I don't know, some chords and I'm like, oh, these chords might be perfect for this artist. I should make a beat and send it to that artist, you know? So this way, this is going to make it, so much easier for me to stay organized and not to forget, all of these little ideas that I might have. This is going to give me like an unfair advantage. I'm telling you. I can do the same thing with like a genre. See, these are like already generated by Ableton. Like, let's say that I'm scrolling through chords that I have in my library and I get to this and I'm like, okay, this is actually giving me an idea in real time. I can tell you, I don't care. Like something Latin, like Raul Alejandro, or even Chris Brown would be great on this, I can do this. Like, let's do it. Let's do it. I don't want to forget right now. Chris Brown, Raul Alejandro. So yeah, this is, I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about this update. I know I sound kind of dumb right now, but yeah, I am. And to make this even more powerful, let's say that I'm going into a session in Miami and I'm trying to make some music for Raul Alejandro. I can just go here in my filters and select all of the little loops that I tagged with Raul Alejandro. I can just click this. In this case, I have just one, but let's say that I have selected, I don't know, 10. In the session, I can be like, okay, guys, let's just start from one of these. I can play it, and if we're vibing to it, we already know where we're going to start from. This is so good. This is so good. If this is not worth subscribing to the channel, guys, I really don't know what is. So while I was making this video, I just found this loop that kind of reminded me of Jack Harlow, this little thing. And so I just put it in a track and really quickly got this little beat going, And once again, for the 808, I've used my Ableton rack, the bed sub, with the 808 preset. And this is going to give me the chance of showing you a couple more features that they've added to this update. So I've talked about Roar before. This is an incredible, absolutely incredible stock Ableton device. It's a saturation plugin, basically. They've also added a new mode, which is this delayed mode. When you first load it, you're going to have these 3 bands. And if you go here, routing, multiband, what if you choose delay? You can apply basically saturation to that delayed signal. That's exactly what I did for this little sample. So let me show you. Okay, you have this. You can apply as much saturation, distortion as you'd like. But what I like is that I can now also apply some saturation to this delayed signal. The more I apply saturation, the more it gets, interesting. And in this case, I chose the noise injection as the algorithm. I chose to have it synced in 8th. And now once I had this, I realized that the delay was too loud. But we don't have a control on the volume of the delay. But what you can do is blending the signal. This way, you can hear the delay, but it's much more controlled. And then another new feature that I found interesting is an update to the Spectral Resonator, an effect that, to be honest with you, I haven't used much. But the more I explore it, the more I see how creative it can be and how it can help you making, your productions a little bit more interesting. So like in this case, let's say that we're going from this section, very busy, like maybe it's like a hook chorus into like a verse. We want to kind of strip it down. And so I have this little percussion that I want to apply this resonator to have like a weird texture with some chords in it. And the resonator basically is going to bring in some harmonics, even in those instruments that don't have any harmonics. Like in this case, these percussions. Listen to this. When I activate this, this almost becomes like a texture pad, something like that. So but rhythmic at the same time. So the first thing I did was enabling this button. What this does is making sure that this is going to work in the same key of your project. You can see this up here. So in this case, this is E minor. So this way we make sure that the resonator generates harmonics that work in E minor. Once I did this, I just started playing with some of these controls, especially the frequency. You know, this makes it sound very different. I kind of found the sweet spot here. And then you have a bunch of controls. Pretty cool that, you know, alter the sound. Kind of gives it a different, darker texture. So I think I'm gonna use this more and more in the future, you know, especially this way. All right, guys, so these were the features that to me really stand out about this new update. Of course, if you go on Ableton's website and you read the release notes one by one, you're gonna see that they've also made some other changes, but these to me are the features that can really be translated into making better music, in becoming a better producer, in improving your tracks, making them stand out and really set you apart from all of the other producers. So as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something new. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Now, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.